Should a man pay on the first date? That is the big question. And we've got a whole bunch of other questions here on the Feel Inspired podcast that I'm going to be asking my guest who's volunteered to have a little bit of a debate with me. Because I think we need to address some of the bigger questions that are affecting today's relationships and dating dilemmas that are plaguing so many people. And let's face it, it's not any easier in this day and age. So we want to try and kind of lay out some of the answers. And as my lovely guest said, is kind of try and get a better understanding of the other side. We will debate, but get a better understanding of the other side. See if we can share ideas that make people think, I never thought about it that way. I'll give you an example. I had a situation on my singles WhatsApp group the other day. This was in fact just yesterday. A lady and a gent had a miscommunication of a WhatsApp. I saw screenshots of the message. When, her response to this was, I thought it was a little bit rude. His response to that, I don't think I did anything wrong. I ended up having a conversation with him. Very gentle conversation. I didn't say to them, I didn't go in guns blazing saying you did something wrong. I just said, here's how she received what you were saying. And it's interesting that you received what she was saying in a certain way as well. But neither of you could see the other side. This is where I'm in a privileged position because I can see both the male perspective and the female perspective. And, one good example of this is, all women will come to me and say, all men are terrible. That's a very atypical sort of sexist remark we might hear. But it's just that women are only dating men, say, for example, I'm just talking in this instance, the cases that I deal with. So, of course, they're going to complain about men. Men also complain about women, but they just happen to be less vocal about it. So these are some of the things, the misunderstandings I think we need to clear up with my lovely guest today. So without further ado, let's welcome Tej. How are you doing?
Hi,
She's actually a personal trainer, but she volunteered for this roasting. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to roast you.
Yeah, I think that it could come across as a roasting.
I promise it will be. Yeah, I promise I will be gentle. But as we have a bit of a tradition here on the Feel Inspired podcast, I'm going to ask you a question from my Spark Conversations cards. If you guys don't know what these are cards that you can buy on my website, sparkconversations.shop. And they're a tool you can take. In fact, you can use them in any scenario as well. You can use them on your podcast, your clients, or whatever. But they're a great tool in dating to get away from the mundane and boring questions that most of us ask each other. How are you? What do you do? Where are you from? Your family? What's your background? And it just gives everyone a bit of a break away from the status quo and do something a little different. So this is what I'm going to ask you today. But we're going to do something slightly different. I'm going to get you to tell me to stop 3 times. Okay. We're going to look at 3 cards. Then I'm going to find the hardest question to ask you. All right. So just say
an easy one today.
Yeah. Stop.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. So that's 1.
Stop.
Well, that's 2.
Stop.
Oh, right near it. Okay. So I'm going to pull these 3 out. And we're going to have a look at what these questions are. And I'm going to choose one of these 3. Okay. I think I'm going to go with this one.
Okay.
Tell me about a superstition that you think is true.
Oh, gosh. I used to be very superstitious in my younger years. But I still can't step on any cracks.
Really?
I know.
How did you get here today? There's loads of cracks in the pavement.
I literally do dance around paving stones. And right now there's work happening on my road where I live. And they've annihilated the pavement for a huge stretch. So you can imagine what I'm like, skipping over.
Especially as a little one, just like you're like a little bunny rabbit bobbing around. Bless you. That's an interesting one, I think. And so it's interesting that it hasn't been dispelled at your wee young age of 25.
43 next week, actually.
Is it your birthday next week?
Yeah.
Wow, happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
In advance as well. So that makes you a Leo.
Depending on when you're going to release the podcast.
But no, you're a Leo, right?
I'm a Virgo.
So you're
I'm
Virgo.
on the cusp.
You're on the cusp.
Just make it. So I have some Leo traits, but a lot of Virgo traits.
Would you say you're more Virgo than
I am more of a Virgo.
Nice. Okay, interesting. Okay, so we, of course, have some important questions to address. And in the spirit of chivalry, I'm going to do the whole thing of ladies first. So let me posit what I'm going to put forward first, and then we'll go from there. So the big burning question that people have is, should a man pay on the first date? So I would love your take on this. Any thoughts, and why specifically as well? Why do you believe which I believe your side is that men should pay.
It is indeed.
Okay, and then so tell me why. Why should a man pay on the first date?
So for me, when a man is choosing a partner, the fact that they're going to take you out on a date to get to know you, when they pay, they're showing intent.
Yeah.
And that intent is so important because out of a whole ream of women that they're going to be in conversation with, they're not going to take everyone out. And for me, as a female, if a man is going to pay to get to know me, it's an investment in me. They actually see that I am a viable potential match for them, and they want to invest in me to see how it progresses. And they're actually putting themselves in a place to say, I actually want to get to know you. Whereas when a man decides to double dutch it or 50-50, which tends to be the sort of mentality these days, it feels more like a transaction. And I don't think that a transaction should get in the way of us building a connection.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that?
For the whole premise of men feeling like they are going to be investing in the man, the woman is actually just going to be sitting there getting a free meal on them. I know that's a mentality that comes across a lot from the male side. But for a woman, it's not about a free meal. It's about the fact that, does this man have the gesture of kindness? Like, is he going to put his money where his mouth is and actually want to provide? From a masculine perspective, a feminine woman is looking for someone who's going to provide safety, financial security, and a space for you to come in and just be free to get to know you without worrying about who's going to pay the bill.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna before I give my side, I'm gonna ask a couple of follow-up questions.
Do.
All right. So I hear you. I definitely hear you, and I think there are definitely some truths in what you say, but there's a flip side. Like I said, that I hear the flip side. So real life example right now. Someone I know who's still I'm very much in touch with right now was telling me a story. He's on a date with a lady.
Right.
One of the first questions she asks is, "How much do you earn?"
Oof.
So you can see that the problem is that sometimes when you go down that rabbit hole, people don't know where to stop. And this is the danger we face right now by having this mentality that like a guy should pay on the first date. And then when it becomes an expectation, as soon as that expectation is broken, of course, there is an immediate fracture in that relationship. So it starts off on the wrong note.
Good point.
So I think this is where the expectation element can be detrimental. So that's just one example of many, by the way. I've heard loads of stories like that. Yeah,
I can. That's a bit extreme, though.
But actually, it happens more common than you realize. And this
it's moved on from the whole ASL now.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. See, this is what I mean. The guys will be less vocal about this, but it happens as well. You know, I know one guy who was even asked about how much money do you have in your pocket right now. And you're like...
They definitely need your Sparks cards.
I know, right? So this is kind of where it can head, right? And so here's a few more sides to this argument. When it comes to... See, I think as well that I think what women tend to do is in their head, from that moment, they're entering a relationship.
Ah, interesting.
From a guy's perspective, he's not entering a relationship. So what he's doing, he just wants to get to know you. Are you someone I want to invest in? He's not at that point yet. He may be by the second date.
Can I interject?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We're assuming that we're talking dinner.
Yes. Yeah. And I was going to get to that as one of my points. Yeah, that's going to be one of my points.
So if we're talking a coffee and you're tarnishing my beautiful females with a broad brush by saying that on that first date they're entering into a relationship. Actually, for most women, they're in observation mode.
They are. I get what you're saying, right? I understand what you're saying by saying I'm in observation mode. But the expectation for him to pay to show any sort of provider resources at that stage is not going through his head at all.
Right.
Signaling that I'm a provider to you, because he's not there yet.
Okay.
He's not even remotely close. Whereas you're thinking, I want to see if he's got provider status for me yet.
Well, it's not a status.
When I say status, like provider, should we say like provider
For me, it's
possibility?
instinct. It's instincts. It's, do they have a natural affinity to wanting to look after the people that are around, and the generosity? Because you could go out for a drink with a bunch of people and you only know one person there. It's happened to me many times.
Yeah.
And someone's going to offer to pay for a round of drinks.
Yeah.
They're not going to leave me out just because they don't know me.
Yeah.
That's a kind gesture. Did I expect him to pay for my drink? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Just like the expectation for the man to pay isn't there. Like I said, it is a case of I'm observing. And I will never sit there and expect a man to say, like, I'm going to pay for our date.
Yeah.
Before or even during the date. Whether it's a coffee, whether it's a meal, whether we've gone out and played mini golf.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking at is how does he behave with his generosity when he's ordering a drink and I'm ordering a drink at the end of that date when we are going our separate ways.
Yeah.
Does he then go, no, I've got this? Or does he go, okay, so the bill is...
Yeah.
£32. So here you go. This is your side of it, 50%.
Yeah. I get it. I get exactly what you're saying, right? I do. Because again, I've heard this side of the argument many times. But I think that there's no one else speaking for men in this capacity, in this way, in a very gentle way, to say, look, okay, so I'm going to give you my example now. So when I was dating, I went on about, between 2008 2011, I went on about 300 dates.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I wasn't earning that much money. There is no way I could have afforded to constantly treat the woman.
Yes.
No chance I could have done it, right? Now, to your point about saying doing a coffee. Now, that's definitely a possibility, right? But I had to think creatively. So my thing was, let me find ways of going out on dates that don't involve money. So, very simple thing, right? Going for a walk in the park, and if it did get to a point where the first hour we got on great, I would happily say, let's go get an ice cream.
Yeah.
And I'll treat you.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the problem. I think the problem is that there are women right now who will immediately make that judgment, especially now, and it's changed. I think if I tried to do that now, that wouldn't work. I think women are almost expecting to be taken out for a meal. Now, not everyone. I think there are very visceral differences between South Asian dating and dating in other cultures, where women in the South Asian culture are actually far much more prepared to pay their own way.
That surprises me.
I'll tell you why. There is an element in them which is because I think they've been far more. Let's just do. I'm going to do a very atypical counterpart. Let's say a white English woman. They've had a lot more freedoms in their life as a whole.
Right.
So they don't feel like they need to prove themselves as much. Whereas I'm finding that South Asian women tend to want to have almost a mentality. This is where we'll delve into this, but they kind of dive into that area of going into their masculine energy.
Oh, we could talk about that for days.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we could easily. And so they're almost saying, no, you don't have to pay for me. I don't need your proof or whatever. However, saying that, again, they will say that, but if it so happens they get taken out for a meal, and he says, you know what, and okay, so what we're going to do, split the bill, and then she'll take offense to that. And I also think there's another flip side to this as well. Let's say, okay, we're going to use an example of me and you. Mm-hmm. Let's say we go out on a date.
Yep.
Okay, and we have a lovely time. But I think you're not the one for me. One of my signals would be, I think, and this is an appropriate signal, let's go Dutch.
And I am actually going to agree with you.
Yeah.
That if I am on a date and I offer to pay my half,
yeah,
I am signalling quite clearly that this is not the match for me.
Yeah.
It's a very clear but gentle way of expressing where you're at. However, I would have to argue that if you are, so you use the example of you having been on 300 dates.
Yeah.
So of course, you're not going to be wanting to book lavish dinners with all 300 of those dates. I completely understand that. Finance is inclusive.
Yeah.
But then with that chivalry aspect,
Yeah.
Book the dates that you know that if you really potentially like this lady, that you're going to be able to afford to pay for whatever it is you're taking her out to. Now, you're creative. There's loads of guys that aren't. Mm-hmm. You created situations and dates that meant that you were able to keep it within your financial budget. But if you're not earning, if your earning capacity isn't going to be a Nobu dinner, don't book a Nobu dinner in the hopes that you get to
Do you like Nobu by any chance? Free advertisement for Nobu. Book today, 10% off, courtesy of the Feel Inspired podcast.
The thing is, go with the intention of paying the whole bill. And then if you do want to give that gentle signal to say, yeah, you're not the match for me.
Yeah.
Then the offer of the 50-50, I would say is fair, but go with the mentality of there's a good chance I might like this lady. And so I want to show her that I am investing in her. So pick a place that fits within your financial capacity.
Yep.
Women aren't actually, despite what the world wants to tell us, we're not looking to be riding that wave of upper status. We just want to be treated well and know that you want to look after us.
Yeah.
That is what we're looking for. And as you alluded to the whole masculine side of women, with the South Asian women, and I'm going to use the term recovering masculine.
Yeah.
I've worked immensely.
Hyper independent. Would you use that term? Yeah.
So hyper independent to a fault. And I say recovering because there are situations where I will find myself slipping back into that mode. And it is like from a South Asian perspective, you said it feels like South Asian women have something to prove.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more a case of South Asian women have been brought up in a more fear-based mindset. And so when women are in a fear-based space, our masculine comes right out to protect us.
Of course.
We go into survival mode. And so when you come across a man who you are potentially wanting to be matched with, you want them to create a space of safety for you that allows you to go, oh, I don't need to be in survival mode anymore. I don't need to take care of everything. I can safely step back and let someone else be part of the dynamic that will allow me to be softer.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything you said there. And honestly, this is exactly what I coach to women as well. The challenge comes for me is just that very explicit word of expectation. And I think that still exists, right? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot ever so slightly, right? So we're going to talk about, because I'll come back to that. I'll circle around back around to that. So there's a very famous video with 50 Cent, and he's on a talk show, and and someone asks him, right? The host asks him and says, "Who should pay on a first date?"
Yeah.
And he says, "Whoever did the asking."
I've heard that.
Right. It's a great sort of like example of where this could go. So if you ask me out on a date, and then I would obviously thoroughly not expect to be the one to pay for, let's say even if it's just a coffee, then if you've asked me out, I mean, I'm not expecting you to pay at all by any means. I would happily put my card on the table and say it's no problem. But if any way, shape or form that you expected me to pay for it, that would for me damage any interaction, any rapport we've built.
Right.
Again, because I think to myself that it's not that I can't provide for you, is that I think to myself, I want to choose to do all these things for you.
Yes. Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
But a woman, from a feminine energy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who the woman is. Women love being pursued.
Yes. That, again, I don't disagree with the pursuit angle.
But from a perspective of, say, for example, I asked you out on a date.
Yeah.
I want you to come back and say, oh, you know what? You beat me to it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you out.
Yeah.
So actually, let me take you out. Because that then signals to me that actually you are in charge of this. You're leading it. So despite the fact that I put my cards on the table
I'm
first,
smiling for a very specific reason, by the way.
You're showing that you're invested in this, and I feel pursued again. So then if you come out and say, actually, but I wanted to take you out, you're showing me your masculine energy, and you're making it really easy for me to then come as a receiver. And then the whole dynamic of who's going to pay again.
I think what you said is brilliant. And I agree. I actually 100% wholeheartedly agree.
We shouldn't be doing that here.
No, you're right. This is we're supposed to be contentious, and it's supposed to be like visceral and brutal. No, I think there was a brilliant video. There's a creator on Instagram. I've forgotten her surname, but Layla is her first name. And then she does these funny videos where she approaches guys randomly in the street and says, "Will you be my husband?" And
I've seen
yeah, you've seen that, right?
Yes.
And there's another.
I find that horrific.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant that she does it. Like, more power to her. And then recently she approached, I don't know if they must have planned this. This must be a planned thing, but she approached a guy who's a male dating coach called Diego.
Okay.
So that exact scenario happened in that video. She said she approached him in the way that she does, and she said, "I'd like to take you out for a coffee," right? And then he said, "No, then I'll take you." So he did it very much in the way that you said.
Yeah.
And then, he did and he's very good at the gift of the gab. But I say to the guys that I coach, this is exactly how I was at that stage when I was learning this stuff, and I got really good at it. Exactly like when she asked, she said, "What's your name?" He said, "Your husband." Like, little things like that, right?
Love
That just,
it.
yeah. I mean, those are lines.
He was in his masculine.
Exactly that.
I love that.
Exactly that. So I want to kind of like touch on the equality element. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is where a lot of guys have struggled with this idea of, okay, aren't we supposed to live in an equal society anymore? By the way, I 100% don't agree with that. And I think because we hear this word equality thrown around so much.
That's exactly what I was about to say. What does equality mean?
Yeah,
I think it's really individual what that word actually encompasses.
Exactly.
So
if you and I had an arm wrestle right now, right? I'm fairly certain I would win, right? So we don't have equal bicep arm strength. But if you said to me, "We're going to see who's more flexible," you'd win hands down, not even a competition, right? So we have equal, we have strengths in different strengths, but in equal measure.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important thing to acknowledge. And I think there's no doubt about that. There's something you could do better than me 100%. There's something I probably do better than you 100%.
Right. But if you're talking, so in a partnership, say, for example, you and I lived together, and I'm not the best cook. I genuinely am not the best cook, and I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you love getting in the kitchen. But I've been raised in a household, and I actually have, where the female does the cooking, does the cleaning, looks after the kitchen. That's her space. Do you think that the whole dynamic between you loving to cook and me not being in that space, but knowing that it's part of my job, so I do it, but I do it a little bit begrudgingly, does that work?
So I'll tell you what, let me describe my relationship with Nirti a little bit. All right, cool. Because I think this is really relevant. It's so funny because I remember in the early days when we were dating, courting, getting to know each other, this came up. And one of the things that she always said to me, she kind of like just blurted out one day. She said, "I'm never taking the rubbish out. I hope you know that." When we got Monty, our dog, she said, "I'm never picking up his poo." For the most part, I do the rubbish. Of course, if she's out for a walk in the park with Monty, she'll always pick up his poo. Not an issue, right? So that's not an issue at all. And I said, when she said that, let me get back to the original point. I need to stick on topic sometimes. Let me stick to the original point. She said, "I'm never picking up the rubbish."
Yeah.
And I said to her, "Yeah, no problem at all." And there was beauty in that for me as well, and a lot of intelligence. Because as a man, one of our needs, our true love languages is utility.
I agree.
And this is why hyper independence is not good either.
Agreed.
Yeah. If a man doesn't have utility in your life, he's literally gonna sit there and go,
unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled.
It's
exactly.
an unfulfilled masculine energy.
Yes, exactly that, right? So we had this agreement. So at the moment, I have to say, Nirti does the lion's share, and I'm being very generous to myself in that equation. She does all the cooking pretty much, 99.9%. I'll occasionally do the Sunday fry up, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
But then I do most of the laundry. I'll happily share all the cleaning, and I put the rubbish out, and there's things around the house that I will just not let her touch, right? Any sort of DIY stuff, filling the water softener every month, getting the heavy 25 kilogram bags, pouring into the softener, etc., all that's my responsibility. I never ask her to do that. So we have our equality on a different level, right? That is that we both know we have a role to play and we'll step into that role when needed and we will do it. That's what equality means to me. It doesn't mean that we're equal. We have equal intelligence. It doesn't mean we have equal money. It doesn't mean we have equal strength. It doesn't mean we have equal this, that, the other. It just means that we're one. Like you said, your example, you don't like cooking. It ain't going to matter if your partner loves to cook.
Exactly.
Not a big deal.
But if we both don't like it,
then of course, then you have to get smart again, right? And figure out how you're going to do it. How you're going to get smart about it.
But this is where you work out what each other's strengths are. So, okay, if we both don't enjoy cooking, but there is something that I'm better at making and you're better at making another dish, then we know that I'm not going to go and mess up on making your skilled, practiced dish.
Exactly.
And I'm going to take charge of the one thing that I know I'm ace at.
Exactly,
So I think it's about leaning into the strengths of each individual in that partnership. And being ready to then learn from the other partner's strengths to help strengthen your weakness in that area as well. Because there may come a day when you're not able to do anything, sickness, I don't know, you go away for a few weeks on business. Niyati's going to take out the bin. She's not going to leave it for you to come back and then deal with it.
Oh, absolutely,
Right. So we all need to know how to do these things, but having an equal split gets a little bit more contentious when we then talk about how much each person is bringing in from a financial perspective. This gets really difficult to manage then, because I've seen dynamics and I've got a lot of clients that actually talk to me about this where their husbands are the breadwinners, and so they don't want, when I tell them, okay, you're really struggling just to make 2 hours for yourself to get yourself to the gym or even do a workout at home. So is there any way you can have a conversation with your partner? And the responses I receive are things like, he's the main breadwinner. I'm in charge of taking care of the house. So no, that conversation isn't going to happen because I've got to fit it in amongst everything else that I do. And that's interesting to me because it's like, well, actually, do you not think that that partner who, yes, he's the breadwinner, he may be financially taking care of the big stuff, but he's also part of your lifestyle. He's also a part of your happiness as much as you are a part of his, as well as taking care of each other's individual happiness. And that is something that gets difficult because it seems from the females that I speak to, not my personal opinion, but it seems from the females that I speak to that we're still battling with that. The equality comes from what we're financially bringing to the table.
Yes. And I can respond to that as well from a different angle. So there's quite a lot of things to be addressed in all of that. But one of the primary ones is that a lot of these men, unfortunately, and this is where I have a tiny bit of a bugbear, because when women are scolding men, who raised and who were the primary caregivers of those men?
I couldn't agree more.
It was women, right? And for the most part. And so unfortunately, and this definitely applies more in South Asian culture. However, I think this has changed so much over the last few years. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said women are way ahead in terms of like, again, I hate using that word independent. I want to use it. But they'd really sort of like flown the nest. They'd gone out traveling. They'd, really explored themselves. And now we're in a stage where I see guys doing this a lot more now, traveling the world, really doing their own thing. Maybe they're exploring their spiritual side, going to yoga classes, doing things by themselves. And so they're doing it more and more now, right now. There's an area where men are way ahead in certain things as well. Again, I'm talking specifically South Asian culture right now.
I won't fight you on that just yet.
Yeah. So, but we'll get there because I'll give you two examples, very specific examples. So one are singles events. If you'd asked me before lockdown, women's tickets always sold out first, and there were always more women.
Okay.
If you were to come to a singles event right now, you would always see on my website, male tickets sold out, sold out, sold out.
Wow.
Women are really lax and they'll buy last minute.
Why do you think that is?
And I'll tell you when I'll get to it. There's a number of reasons, and there's no easy way to, smush that down into a short answer, but I'll give the best that I can. Second element. So as a lot of people will know, I've got a singles WhatsApp group. Right now, if you were to look at it, it's about 730 people on the singles WhatsApp group. So it's a massive group. And it's run like a pseudo dating platform. So just as an example, Mondays, I get ladies 39 and under to post their profile.
Right.
Today, it's guys 39 and under. If you were to look at the number of ladies who posted their profile yesterday, was probably overtaken by about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And by the end of today, men will double.
Wow. As they have time in the evenings.
They're far more proactive in this kind of thing. There are reasons for it, and there's some other important reasons for it as well. One of those is, I think there is an element where some guys don't exercise boundaries.
And I was just going to call that bit out.
Yeah,
yes.
and so, but and sometimes there's nothing bad. It's just they will try their luck, and I think there's nothing wrong with that as well. So, say for example, a woman has said, I'm 30, my age bracket is 28 to 34. Let's say, for example. And there's a guy there who's 37, 38, and he tries his luck. That's what I'm calling out more.
I like that confidence, though.
Yeah, and I think to a certain degree, there's nothing wrong with that. And there was, because of the way that group has developed specifically, guys are learning from me. They're making a lot more effort. And they know as well that I'm really strict. If they don't do what I say in terms of approaching respectfully,
yes,
they get kicked out the group straight away.
Okay.
And they can come back, but once they've learned, they have to prove it to me. They have to. I literally say to them, pretend I'm a woman, do the approach right now. And if they don't match up to what we want, then I kick them out because I'm like, you need to level up. But they are learning. But there's also a lot of not very nice females who have come by on the group as well, who've been very sort of. So I'll give it again. Yeah.
Aroma.
Yeah. But okay, so the thing is, right, so this is another example. This actually really traumatized me about two years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. Ooh. In the space of 2 weeks, I had 3 women massively lie to me about guys on the group.
Okay.
The version of the group then was very different to what it is now. But so one lady came along, she said, I've got this guy did this, he was like this, he was really rude to me, all this kind of stuff. And so she sent me screenshots. What she didn't tell me was that she admitted a lot of the information. Only showing the bit that kind of, for want of a better phrase, made him look bad, incriminated him. When he came back and gave me his side of the story and showed me the full screenshot, that context of that conversation was completely different. There was another one as well, and I'm glad that lady, she's kind of left anyway, but again, she was so strong in her opinions about what he did when and someone came forward, another lady came forward and really stood up for him and said, no, he is not that type of person. So then eventually I spoke to him and he sent me screenshots. Totally different story. 3 times in 2 weeks that happened. Doesn't happen that often now, but I think that one area that we are going down right now, and this is another thing I sort of mentioned when we chatted before the podcast today. You've got this app, T, in the US.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it until you mentioned it.
I
had to research it.
Yeah, I hadn't until I heard the breaking news about this data breach.
Data breach, yes.
And then you remind me as well that obviously there's Facebook groups.
There are communities.
Are we dating the same guy?
Yes.
Now, here's the I think while they can be good, they can also be so damaging and so detrimental.
A lot of
I think I'm genuinely a good human being. But I think even if I look back to my dating experiences, there's probably 1 or 2 things that if they were taken out of context and those existed then, I probably would look like an evil bastard right now.
But we all would. None of us is infallible. None of us is perfect. And obviously, when we're young, we make a ton of mistakes to get to this highly evolved stage.
Yeah.
You're not a dating coach by accident. You've experienced it.
Exactly.
And you've had to learn through those mistakes. However, what I have noticed in communities and groups like this is if we are reliant on others' feedback of their experiences with a certain individual, it's going to be tainted with their narratives, with their belief system, with their history and trauma prior to that experience.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing it's just very murky.
Yes.
We could get someone on death row.
Yeah.
And he's shot someone in a courthouse somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're going to think, what a bad human being. He's killed someone. He deserves to be on death row. But you don't know why he killed that person.
Yeah.
Was there, we digress, but I saw a case where a lady literally beat to death her partner who had been sexually abusing her child.
Yeah.
And this case obviously went to court, and they had no clue whether she would be found guilty or not guilty.
Yeah.
I didn't feel bad about her killing.
No, I mean,
the justice system is the justice system,
Yeah.
but what he did was wrong. And as a mum, I was like, good for effing you.
I've got a temper, right? But it's very rare that it comes out. But if I'm walking my dog and someone abuses my dog, you're going to regret it. Seriously, you will regret it, yeah? There's that side of me will come out.
But then if someone was walking past and just videoed you in that moment...
Exactly. And they only saw the latter part, yes, exactly.
Context.
And this is why I think we're in a position where this is why, one of the questions I wanted to ask you today is dating right now harder for men or women, right? So we're kind of, and it's a really hard one. And I'm going to posit that it's harder for men.
Oh, yeah, okay.
For that, one of those reasons, I think, is that because... don't get me wrong, there are instances where this does happen, right? Recently I had one as well where a guy, he said, please can I come back? I know I did wrong in your group. Please can I return?
Good for him for trying again.
And yeah, fair enough, right? And I said to him as well, okay, here's my condition. You've got to be a stellar human being if you want to be back in that group. And I know he did wrong because I saw screenshots as well and it was not appropriate what he did. I don't think it's anything terrible, but it's one of those things where, look... I think in this day and age, you've got to just conduct yourself in a very specific way. If you don't, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Oh, yes.
So you've got to be very careful.
More now than ever before.
Exactly. So if you're going to be on my group, first and foremost, you need to be, a stellar example to everyone else. And then I think, and part of this as well, one of the things that's happened here is that you've got now a bunch of human beings, both men and women, who don't give a crap on how much they hurt someone or not. So on one side, you've got really bad men, you've got really bad women. In the middle, you've got all these good people who never do anything to anyone. But they're the ones who always end up the victims of both sides. And but the thing is as well, this has happened to me. The bad ones will always get away with it, but if one of the good ones in the middle puts one foot wrong, oh my god, the
because it's
backlash.
A stark contrast to who they are.
Yeah.
Whereas we've accepted that this person that always does wrong is just a wrong 'un.
Yes, yes.
So we give them a wider berth because that's just who we've accepted them to be.
Yes, I agree, and I think this is why dating is harder for men, because they're always going to get tarnished with that brush for a number of reasons. One, obviously, probably, I would say on balance, there's probably more bad men than there are bad women. However, the way women respond to those bad men is that they will instantly taint all men the same way for the most part. And so even the most awesome guys will have difficulty getting a look in. So for example, a random example, I had a lady come to me recently. I don't want to date this guy because he reminds me of my ex, and he was not a very nice person.
I was literally about to use that example. Yes.
And I thought, and I actually know this person. I said he's not like that. He's a really decent guy. So but she goes, I just can't get out of my head. I said, okay, fair enough, right? I get that.
Women build roots.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, and then the last part of that equation, and then I'll let you speak on this side of this question specifically. Women are far much more vocal. So you're more likely to go onto that group. Are we dating the same guy? And post about it. Let's say, and me again, let's use me as an example, right? You could easily go there, plaster a picture of, I got to know this guy. He says he's a dating coach. He seems all right, but I just want to check. Is anyone else dating this guy, right? And actually that makes for a very good point as well, that when I was dating sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 women at the same time. So if you posted that, again, people would have got a very tainted view of me. But I was just dating to get to know people. I wasn't sleeping around and, shagging women left, right and center. No, that's not what I was doing. Yes, I was actively dating 5, 6 different women at the same time.
Again, context.
Exactly. But the thing is as well, but if one person, let's say you put that out, And then someone else comes along and says, yes, oh my God, I'm dating this guy. Someone else comes along, oh yes, I'm dating this guy. Then you all pounce on it straight away.
Well, I don't know. Because women don't just take that statement and go, right, that's it. This is a big problem.
They can do.
Really?
Yeah.
See, the kind of woman I am and the kind of women I surround myself with, we're very analytical. And we want to know everything.
Yeah.
So we will then go deep diving, DM that woman. I've never done this before, but I'm just thinking in the frame of if I was in that space, I'd message those women individually and say, okay, please explain to me what your situation with him is. What's the history? What's happening right now? And if I ascertain from 3 or 4 of those women that you're dating at the same time that you are taking them out for coffee, there's no intimacy, then okay, you are as you said you are. Yeah. Just getting to know multiple people at the same time. At some point, you'll start homing in on, the 1 or 2 that you actually do want to potentially, that you see a future with. So if you feel like women are making just that one blanket statement that, oh my God, Amit's a bad guy because I've got these 3 messages from people that have said that they've dated him. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Women are not like that.
I'm glad you don't. But you'd be surprised, though. I think there is a lot of that exists. I agree that you're a level-headed individual, and I don't think you would ever do that. But there are women who do. They freak out, and they go like, oh my God, I need to find out more. And then, and then again, you can even fill in the blanks with your own head, fill in the narrative just based on pieces of information that have kind of come together.
I will tell you why that is. And I was a very insecure woman. Yeah. So add to that the recovering masculine as well. And when women are insecure and highly masculine, we want to control as much as we possibly can because we don't want to fuck up. And when we say fuck up, it's big when a woman fucks up. There's lots of different ways that women fucking up will last a lot longer and impact them a lot more than if a man fucks up, for example. And especially in the dating world. But also, we're talking about the fact that when you are insecure, you are looking for every opportunity to think something is wrong. And your picker is off. Anyway, your picker is, whether you're a man or a woman, when you are an insecure individual, your picker is way off.
Definitely.
You're more likely to make decisions and lean into others that tap into your wounds. And so you create a really toxic situation. You'll find those are the people that gravitate towards each other. Insecure men and insecure women. Yeah.
Or it's more like the avoidance and the anxious. They're the kind of one they will literally come together. Yeah. And there's reasons behind it. There's science behind it.
It's the perfect storm.
Yeah. And there's science behind that and why that happens and why they seek out that. And you're absolutely right. That does happen. I still think in this day and age, I would say that on balance, dating is probably harder for men. And there are a number of elements to this.
I'm going to have to disagree.
Okay.
On a few elements, but I'll let you make your points first.
All right. So why is it more difficult for men? So right now, if you go to a singles event, especially again, it's hard to say on balance because I think if you go to a non-Asian event, you might find different numbers there. You might actually find more women. And I know in America, that's definitely a thing where you go to a singles event, you might find more women there than you would men. But as it currently is in the state of play in the UK, you go to a singles event, a Desi singles event, usually you will find more men than women. So women then essentially have more of a pick. Okay. So that's one thing. Mm-hmm. If you look at the apps right now as well, mostly it's men. So as a woman, you're going to have a greater choice. And I know that, you probably got something to say about that, right? The choice may not be great, right? Because obviously it's the type of men that just, yes, I agree. For the average Joe, being on a dating app is hell, to try and get that 1 or 2 connections. And this is why I say, look, of course I advise to guys, look, use an app, fair enough, but don't place all your hopes on it. You've got to do more than just be on an app and expect something to happen because it ain't gonna happen. Yeah. So I think one, talk about 2 elements, right? So let's say, for example, events, generally speaking, more men than women. apps a lot more men than women. So men have a lot less choice. Because women are seeing so many men on the apps and they're getting so many bad experiences, again, they get tainted. So even if a guy is good, and then another thing, so then these are little things now, little peripheral things. Women are far much better at taking pictures of themselves, selfies. Guys are awful at it.
I have to agree with you on that one, actually.
Yeah. So guys don't know how to represent themselves visually well on an app, say, for example, right? You know, okay, I'm an outlier here. I work on camera. I, do content. I work on radio, etc. So I know how to work with the light and take a good selfie, for example. It doesn't always turn out great, but occasionally I take one. I think, oh, that's a great picture. I'll use that for the next 5 years. Do you know what I mean? Right? That's my picture wherever for the next 5 years. I had to ditch all my old good ones because obviously with the hair, right now the hair's gone. I've got to pick up some new ones now. So that's another thing as well. So men have the skill. That's okay. So this is where I'm like, okay, that's a 50-50 because you can skill up. But where it also gets harder for men is that they have no one generally to talk to. And I know it's a very big generalization, but they have lesser peer groups. So again, if you go on a Facebook group that we both know well, Professional Asian, how many women's groups do you see on that set up? Several.
There are
lots. Yeah. How many men's groups have you seen on there recently?
I mean, it's improving. I see conversations between some key male coaches happening now, and that's... They
do, but there's no sort of group space. And no, we're not talking, again, right, so the historical thinking is, a men's club, right, gentlemen's club, etc.
But this is the thing, men, I mean, I might be generalising quite significantly here, but men tend not to be part of virtual groups. I don't think men like to text talk. I think for men, which is actually now making me think, is that why there's more men at these physical events? They like to be together physically in a pack. And I don't say pack in a derogatory way. Like, they like to be in person. So actually, women's groups are there because women like to be able to message on the sideline and be like, oh my God, here's what I found, and I'm done. And we'll happily live in online spaces. You won't find many male influencers, for example, on TikTok and Instagram. I'm sure there's a far bigger percentage who are females because we feel safer in that online space with each other and just generally across the board. But coming back to the whole app thing, I was on a dating app and you say it's easier for men, but as a female, it is insane the overwhelm that you feel as a woman when you are getting inundated with messages. And I will put my hands up and say, okay, I know I'm an attractive woman. So I kind of...
Are you? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I will expect some level of that. But what these men do is they play the numbers game. And that is, oh my God, like if you have read my profile and for example, I put in my profile very clearly, and it was homed in on because I was a complete newbie. I'm an old school dater. Like for me, you saw someone in person and the connection was an in-person connection. So this was very, very different. And over like a few weeks, I was like, okay, need to get really specific so people know not to contact me if they are not this, doing this. So you do the whole, if you're doing drugs, you're not for me.
Yeah.
The very simple, clear signs. Then I got even more specific. I am very gym centric. Like I love training. It is one of my life's biggest passions. I enjoy it so much. If that's not your vibe, then we're probably not going to be a great match. So essentially I'm telling you, don't bother messaging me if you're like, I don't like going to the gym or I don't like looking after myself in that way. Because for me, finding a partner, I'd want to be able to go and share my favorite thing and do it together. So if that's not your vibe, it's going to be a problem. Like, though it sounds superficial, it's that important to me. So I think that you may want to think again before you message me. Yet they're still messaging, despite the fact that I've clearly said, if you don't enjoy training, then I'm not going to be the girl for you.
Yeah.
Yet you're still messaging and you do no physical activity. And with all due respect, you can see from your pictures, you don't take care of yourself. All of your sort of likes have everything to do with overindulgence.
Yeah.
So do you think we're going to be a match? When you get a massive percentage of that, you just fall out of complete belief that you're going to find your person.
Yeah.
Because you're inundated with absolutely the wrong matches, potential matches. And these men are just not paying attention to what you're saying. So if they're at the first hurdle failing, what are you going to be like?
Yeah.
You're literally not looking into what I am saying. So in a relationship, you're going to be even worse.
Yeah. Okay. Right. No worries. I understand that. Right. So we're looking at two very different problems for men and women, right? One is sometimes the good guys not getting noticed at all. One of the good girls getting inundated with messages from people who are just not a match. So what we're basically saying is that they've both got problems. These two individuals, virtual individuals, got major problems because,
Men play the numbers game.
Yeah.
They literally will just swipe or whatever it is. I don't know what the apps do these days. Hit a like on everything, hoping that one will bite.
Yes.
Women are like, please let me I don't have enough time. I don't want to be approached by everyone. I just want a few good ones to create a connection with.
Yeah.
I don't have the time.
I by the way, just on a coaching side of things, I don't know if you've tried this as well, because I'm always I'm in favor of that you should specify clearly what you want, not what you don't want. And I think because men's brains tend to work more towards the positive.
Yeah.
So if you say what you want, and if you were to say...
I tried that. So I tried the negative to see if it would change things.
It probably won't. It'll probably be worse, actually. I think the outcome would be worse, far worse. But if you were to put on there, if you took me to a gym on a first date, we are golden. I think that will kind of...
I like that approach.
Yes. And I think
because it's very positive. It's a positive focus and it's
exactly
calling... Yeah, I can imagine. But I can guarantee you will still get...
I'm 50% sure it's not
of people saying, I'm not going to take you to the gym, don't love the gym, but, hi.
I get it. It will never completely solve the problem, but I think it does. If you combine that with other things, it will go a long way. It'll pay dividends in the long run. So you're sticking with the side that is harder for women. I'm sticking with the side that I think is harder for men. I think for men, the journey is a lot more lonely overall. I don't think we have people that we can rely on and talk to. I think women tend to have stronger peer groups that they can actually talk about the important stuff and be open. Whereas I think men are less able to do that.
I wouldn't say it's less able.
Oh yeah, no. So maybe that's the wrong word. I think one. What I will say is, I think one, they have less opportunity, and two, they actually have less of those options to do that with people.
So
it's not that they're not able. So I think that is the wrong word. But they don't have the peer groups or the structure set up around them where they can do that.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and it's because it's fresh in my mind because I was explaining this to a client on a call this morning, and I genuinely grew up feeling like an utter misfit. I didn't have a group that I belonged to, and I'd long to find my people. And I would look into other friendship groups and feel like I was missing out so sorely that I then leaned into, well, fuck it, I am going to just be different, and became even more so specific about, it's fine, I don't want any of you guys anyway. Wearing black lipstick, goth. I went into a goth phase, all in my lonesome self, because it was completely against what everybody else was doing. And I was like, well, if I'm not part of you and you, I'm going to have to do a complete opposite over here to really find my identity. Didn't work. And as I grew up, and again, like I said, recovering masculine, I was very in that masculine space, and I found myself in a comfortable sort of element around men. I just didn't feel like men had those same hang-ups as women did. And I was able to be like, it was black and white with them. And it was just very clear. And it was just clean friendships. You knew where you stood with men. And as a masculine energy, that worked really well for me. But you start to, at a point in life, realize that actually, no, I do need women around me. I went through childbirth, pregnancy, and felt like I was alone. And even though you join pregnancy groups, the women just weren't the same as me. And so I worked in corporate for many years. And again, in IT, so happily surrounded by males, did really well in that domain. And then I realized if I wanted to be around my kind of women, because I had a conversation with my manager, I was like, why aren't we employing more women? There's more women like me out there. He's like, we don't get any of those applications for roles that we put out. And that always sat with me. And I was like, there is no space for a woman like me. And I've been telling myself that all the time. So you know what? It's up to me to create that damn space. And men have got to do the same damn thing, Amit. I didn't have women that I naturally aligned myself to. So I created a space and flew my freak flag and I called to my women.
You found your tribe. Yeah. I would say men are doing that a little bit more.
Good.
I think that it is coming to the surface now more. I'll tell you something funny, right? So it's ironic that you say that because I was a misfit as well, completely misfit, right? I did have a circle of friends at school, but we were the outcasts, we were the geeks, we were the ones who would get picked on, bullied, all the rest of it. By the time I got to college, I've mentioned this on, on my story before that, my 18th birthday I spent by myself and I just took myself go-karting, right? That's the kind of existence.
I love that you did that.
Yeah, that's the kind of existence I had though, right? If no one else is going to do it and I've got no one to go with, I'm just going to do it myself. But I've seen a lot of like youngsters and young men, and in my life in particular as well, one kid from when I was at school, Bijal, committed suicide. Then my friend, Ani, took his own life over a long period of time. And I've seen this happen to men that they just, when you are equipped, I think women are equipped with the ability to discuss their emotions and talk a bit more openly and freely with what's going on in their head, discuss it in their heart. I think a lot of men need a even safer space to do that. So there's you may have a peer group where you can discuss football. It's so funny. I went to a friend's event on Sunday. You just had a picnic. I was chatting to a lady there and we were talking about dating. She happened to be single. We were talking about that. There was 3 or 4 other guys there. And where did the conversation immediately go? Football. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating to me. I see this all the time, right? Because I'm not into football. So when guys do that, I just lose interest generally anyway. Yeah. So I just kind of, let's carry on talking about dating. Yeah, that's more of an interesting subject.
That's probably why you attract more women. Because you're able to converse in their language.
Exactly. But the thing is, I never used to be able to communicate with guys before. I can now, but it's taken a long while to develop that skill.
So it's the same when I say I couldn't communicate with other women until I found my women and knew how to communicate with them. Yeah. Found my way. It's so interesting.
It is a fascinating time to be alive. It was in a good way for all these poor single people out there. But I think I'll ask you for your summary as well about everything we've discussed today. In fact, let me be an old school chivalrous man. Ladies first. Out of everything we've discussed today, because we're kind of approaching the end now, what's your take? What have you learned from the conversation today? And is there anything that you've kind of taken away that's made you think differently? And I'll give mine as well.
So I still stand by the stances that I took today on our conversations. But what I learnt was I didn't really recognize that men still feel like they haven't got a safe space. Now, the reason I'm going to continue taking my stance is because I've been in that space before where I didn't feel like I had a space and I created it. And men are doers. So why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you creating a space for you to find people that you can connect with? And trust me when I say that when you take charge as a man to create that space, you will call to so many of those men that you say are really struggling to talk. And it's so sad to hear that you saw so many of your friends, and you've mentioned two, but I'm pretty sure you know more.
Yeah.
I know quite a few. I've got clients who've lost their husbands and partners to suicide. Male mental health isn't just a topic du jour. It's something that hasn't been poured into in the same way that women have been pouring into to help themselves. But then we have to remember that we are naturally better at communication. And naturally, we want to find the ability to relate to other women because that's what communities were created around. Whereas men are a little bit more competitive out in, the domain. And so when they sit there and discuss football, for example, they're trying to create a semblance of relatability alongside that competitiveness so that it's coming together rather than being mutually exclusive. And it's actually quite upsetting that men still haven't found a way to create a space physically for themselves to be in that safe space in the way that women are. We shouldn't be waiting for somebody to create that for us. So I think that for men, you've got to be confident enough to lead. So if you don't find a space, make it. Make it. You made a space for yourself. In this whole dating world, you saw that there was an issue and you decided to merge your experiences with your need to help people and create a space for them. I genuinely think that would open up pockets. And the thing is, I don't know if you've heard of this female group called Women in Business, and it's literally
I've heard of it, yeah.
And then there's Mums in Business, and women like to bring together their people. What stops a man from doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is a good question. I think there's a lot of complicated answers to that question from what I've seen and the men I speak to, and it doesn't always. It's a really. It's almost it's hard to put into words, but I will start off with, because you said the word, and we were joking about this before we did the podcast, right? Women can talk a lot but say a little, is what I say, right? Men can talk a little but say a lot. And I think that this is where the struggle begins for them, is there is a lot for them to say. But I think that because some men, and again, going back to South Asian men, they've been coddled a lot. And so now they're suddenly thrust out on their own. And they're still, I was saying to the lady I was speaking to on Sunday, that women have had the last 25 years to up their game. And I think men are just starting the journey that women have had for the last 25 years.
From a spiritual and energetic perspective?
From
yes.
Every perspective. Not only that, from professional, self-employment, from spiritual, from the, self-improvement, from the intellectual, everything. I think they're starting to see, oh, okay, cool. Women have done it. We can, we're now finding our own sort of feet as well in their own sort of way of developing themselves. And so there was one aspect we didn't talk about, and we touched on it slightly, but the hypergamy versus hypogamy, right? So, I've always said that, the science that backs us up, that women tend to date up, men tend to date down. What that means, the up and down, let's not get into that right now.
Whole other episode.
The status is the word I used to use, and I would still use that word to a certain degree. So women want to date up. And because women have upped their status, they're finding it harder to, through hypergamy, date up. Now men need time to up-level themselves, and they're going through that journey right now. So given enough time, they will get there.
Is it happening though, Amit?
It is happening. Yeah, I'd say it's 100% happening. And I'll give you a very visceral example of this. Pre-lockdown, I would say, because I coach men and women, I would say probably, to be realistic, 80 to 90% of the coaching calls I was getting booked were women. Now it's easily 60-40.
Okay.
And
That's
there are
really
days.
good to hear.
Yeah, and there's even weeks or days where it's 50-50.
Love it.
So guys are opening up more. They're being willing to ask the questions, the tough questions. Even the ones who never had a sibling or a parent properly talk to them about sex. They feel they can talk to me and they can ask those questions. And I'm glad they can.
Good.
And I'll give them the proper answers. Not just what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. And so they're at that stage where they're starting to ask the questions. And this is what's happening right now. So they're starting that journey, and it's getting there. It's going to take time. If I were to give a message to the women out there watching today, I think it's, when we started the conversation on the whole, should a man pay on the first date? I think be a little bit more forgiving of men, because you are too, there was a reason that book was called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. We speak completely different languages. We see the world in a very different way.
Very.
For him, he just wants to see if you are someone he wants to invest in. You want to feel invested in. We will never exactly bridge that gap.
No.
Never.
No.
But we can start to just try and understand each other.
If the gap gets smaller, and that is actually something that heartens me. The fact that you are getting more coaching calls booked by males shows willing to grow and change, willing to learn more about how to be better for a counterpart.
Yeah.
And that is really important for a woman to understand, because though we want to, like you said, date up, we may not necessarily, because of how we've up-leveled, be able to date up. But if we find a man that is on his way through intention and action, that says everything.
Yeah.
Because if your status is where you're at and you're not growing, you don't have ambition and intention, you're not taking suitable action towards that, then you're done. You're in a plateau. You're staying stagnant, stale. So as a woman, as we evolve together, if we become a partnership, I'm not going to stop my trajectory to rise. We're going to find that disparity gets bigger and bigger. But if you're not starting at the same point as me, but I can see you've got intention, determination, ambition, your actions are where they need to be, you're passionate about where you want to go, and I believe in your journey because you believe in your journey, I'm gonna invest back in you. I'm gonna support you. And that's what men need to understand about women, is that we're not just looking to date someone who's better than us. We're looking to date somebody, or we want to partner with somebody who is growing and never wants to see the end of that growth for themselves and as a partnership.
Drive. They have drive.
Across the board.
Final thoughts, and share your socials for everyone out there as well.
Thanks. Final thoughts are, I'm really glad that we can talk about this and understand that it's not actually a battle of the sexes. It's how we can actually interpret and understand each other better, so that we can come from a place of understanding. And rather than the word that you used, expectation, so that we can actually create connections from that perspective. And if you want to find me, because even though I am a transformation coach and I work on perimenopause or over 40s bodies and health and fitness, these are all the things I discuss on my socials as well, big time. Because I'm very passionate about it, as hopefully you can see. But I'm on Tej_Fit on Instagram, and Tej-Fit on Facebook. My website, tejfit.com.
Sweet. Nice and easy. Tej-Fit.
Tej-Fit, everything Tej-Fit.
Small, just like you. Tej-Fit.
Big personality, though.
Well, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Tej for coming in. It's honestly been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I think we've had a really good discussion today, and I hope people get a lot from this one. And this could be the first of many, because I think I want to start having a lot more of these difficult conversations, because I think they need to be had. Including things like, would you date someone who believes in conspiracy theories? Potentially. I'm a major conspiracy theorist,
I love it.
Yeah.
Though I may not believe in them all, I love how people pick apart those theories is just, I get to understand how your brain works.
Yeah.
That to me
just
is
to clarify about that, I'm not a flat earther.
God.
I don't take it that far, right?
Okay.
But there are certain things I do think that we need to really, we just don't have an
Question.
understanding. Yes, absolutely. We need to question everything.
Love it.
Yeah. So honestly, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for inviting
You're
me.
a superstar for joining me. And ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 53, 83, should I say, of the Feeling Inspired podcast. And Tej-Fit has been my amazing guest. And you can catch this on all your favorite platforms. And hopefully there'll be many more episodes to come. So I'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.